Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
I'd ask that we suspend the rules and dispense with the constitutional third reading.
Question is, shall the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading of Senate Bill 838 be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The motion is agreed to. Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'd move that the bill pass and speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, this bill is this represents a material change in our law, and I'm not going to be disingenuous about that. I'm going to be honest about that, and I'm going to state the reasons why it's before you and what it intends to accomplish. We just about 2 hours ago passed Senate Bill 780, which was brought to us by the gentleman from Henry County. And I note that because in the fiscal statement for Senate Bill 780, I pulled that down, and let me just read the following passage from it. Senate Bill 780 dealt with refinancings and using the same lender and whether or not you could get that credit for recordation tax. Here's what the fiscal statement says from Senate Bill 780. Clerks often are unable to determine who is the current note holder because Virginia law does not require that an assignment of the note be recorded. Often the homeowner does not know who the note holder is. He only knows who is servicing the loan. Reviewing the payoff statement for the loan being refinanced often shows only the servicer, not the note holder. Recent financial upheaval in the banking industry has led to consolidations and mergers. This has further complicated identifying the note holder. This is the financial statement, the fiscal statement for Senate Bill 838, for Senate Bill 780, which brings me to Senate Bill 838, which would require the recordation of assignments when mortgages are transferred. Again, basically, this is a very simple solution. We have a statute in our books which allows the transfer of mortgages to be recorded in land records, but it's an option. This would make it mandatory. And why is this important? Because it would make it immediately apparent who actually holds mortgages, who the people are, the people that own your mortgage, own the deed of trust, have the ability to foreclose, who you need to talk to, who you need to contact when you're in a situation of foreclosure. Now, the parties that support this bill are your typical bunch of left-wing radicals. Let me just talk about them a little bit. Title attorneys, clerks of court, Virginia Bar Real Estate Section, and the Richmond Times-Dispatch editorial page, okay? That's the left-wing radicals that are pushing this bill. The folks that are against it are pretty obvious. They're the national banks. Now, I have tremendous respect for the banking industry. Lord knows I wasn't smart enough in college to get a job on Wall Street. But let me tell you something. The folks that are opposed to this bill are the folks that made billions of dollars over the past few years in the industry of mortgage-backed securities. And mortgage-backed securities meant taking loans that were made in my community and your community, selling them on the secondary market, securitizing them, and then reselling them again and again and again, and making billions of dollars off that industry. And that's fine. It's a great country we live in. But what it meant is that the people that hold that note are no longer identifiable or traceable to those of us that live in communities that now are affected by these foreclosures. Now, you may think that's a good thing, or you may not think it's a bad thing. It really doesn't matter to me. What I'm seeking in our system is honesty and transparency, going back to the Virginia system whereby the person that owns the note and has the ability to foreclose on your house is at least somebody that you can trace legally. That's all I'm asking to do. Again, this is a change in our law. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. And there are some of the most talented legal minds in Richmond lobbying against this bill, and I'm just a little guy from Fairfax City. But the bottom line is, if you pass this bill, you will make a statement. You will make a statement that Virginia is going to require people to play by an honest and transparent system when they buy and sell mortgages in this state, and in that way you'll take a small step on behalf of homeowners, in my humble estimation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, would the gentleman resume the floor for a question, please?
Will the senator from Fairfax City yield for a question?
I yield.
The senator yields. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question would be, is one of the intents of this bill to provide the information that you just recited to the homeowner who is the subject of a foreclosure?
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
I would answer the gentleman, it's actually the opposite. It would provide a safe harbor to someone that wants to foreclose, that once they have recorded their assignment in land records, it appears to me it would give them immunity from later being accused of fabricating a record.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking against the passage of this bill, point number one, I think it is disingenuous to speak in a global terms that this is only going to impact banks that make billions and billions of dollars. This is going to impact the entire banking community right down to your hometown community banks. So it's not just the billion-dollar banks. Point number two, Mr. President, in the explanation of the bill, there was offered that it would provide that it be traced easily and there would be an honest and transparent availability of information. The body may be interested to know that currently under federal law, there are affirmative requirements of this right now. Actually, under the Federal Truth in Lending Law, under Section Title 404, it requires any new owner of a mortgage loan to notify the borrower with a notice of the new owner of that loan. So there's already an affirmative requirement that if the loan is sold or assigned, that the new owner of that loan must notify the borrower. They can't make the borrower read the notice, but there's an affirmative requirement that they already be notified. It also requires disclosure of the name and address of the individual company that is servicing the loan. So that affirmation is not there, and that is even more than would be included in the assignment, because under the assignment, they don't have to include who is doing the servicing of the loan. The body may further be interested to know that there is also existing federal law requiring the services to disclose the name and owner of the loan if there's an inquiry made from the borrower. So there's an affirmation that the individual homeowner must be notified of who owns it. There's an affirmation that the that the identifying information is the server is there, and that if in fact there is any doubt in the mind of the borrower, the homeowner, then they can make the request, and under the affirmation of the federal law, they have to do it.
Mr. President.
I would say, I'm not going to yield just yet, Mr. President. So under the existing federal truth in lending law, it actually has these requirements that exist. I'll be happy to yield.
The junior senator from Henrico, Senator McEachin.
I thank the senator for yielding, Mr. President, and I wonder if I might ask him a question.
The senator yields.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Just as long as it's softball, Mr. President.
This initial one is softball, Mr. President. I wonder if the senator could tell me what is the purpose of the chain of title under Virginia law?
Senator from
Mr.
James
President,
City County,
if I
Senator
understood
Norman.
the question, what is the purpose of the chain of title?
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I would say while I am not a dirt lawyer, it is at least my very humble understanding that the purpose of the chain of title is to make as a matter of public record who in fact owns a piece of property, and it also allows a title examiner to search the chain to determine the earlier owners that appear in the succession of title.
Further question, Mr.
Your
President.
senator from Henrico, Senator McEachin.
Further question, Mr. President.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I would ask the senator, would he not agree with me that part of the purpose of the chain of title is to put the world on notice of not only who prior owners might be, but also if property is encumbered and how it is encumbered?
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I would answer yes, it is. Generally, a title examiner is looking to see if there are any encumbrances or liens against the property. And I would further say that, Mr. President, in this particular instance, when a title examiner looked at the chain of title, they would immediately pick up the existing mortgage or the deed of trust that is currently recorded against the property. So, in fact, they would know that there is a lien that does exist against it.
Further question, Mr.
From
President.
Henrico, Senator McEachin.
I would ask the senator, is it not the case, and have we not heard testimony, and is it also not possible that in that chain of title, without the third party whom this, let me start over, Mr. President, if I might. We have certainly heard testimony that many of these mortgages are being sold and the actual holder of the note is not the original holder of the note. Understanding that, would the senator not agree that it is important for third-party purchasers and for everybody else who might be interested in understanding how this property is encumbered, that the chain of title have the actual note holder not the prior note holder, not the original note